Very, yes. You'd always assume that if there's a microphone in front of you that it's on, apparently they tell me. Caught one or two people out there, I understand. Again, welcome everybody to this licensing statutory subcommittee meeting. And today's date is Wednesday, the 13th of December, and we're here to review an application, which I will come to momentarily. I'll start by saying that the hearing will be live broadcast, and therefore it will be available for people to view and listen as members of the public, live or subsequently. And obviously, if there's a problem with the technology, we will be advised, and therefore the meeting will be temporarily suspended until that's resolved, and then we'll be able to resume thereafter. So, excuse me. As again, I'd like to welcome everybody here. My name is Councillor Keith Horgan. I'm the chair of the Licensing Statutory Subcommittee, and I'd like to allow members on the panel here to introduce themselves.
Councillor Julia Huffer. I'm Fordham and Isleham Villages councillor.
Councillor Gareth Wilson, a Hadnam councillor.
Hannah Walker, trainee Democratic Services Officer, and I'll be taking the minutes today.
Thank you. And on my right.
Stuart Broom, Senior Licensing Officer for the Council.
Maggie Camp, I'm Director of Legal. I'll be giving legal advice to the committee today.
Angela Tyrrell, Senior Legal Assistant. I'll be assisting with any legal matters.
Excellent, thank you. Before we start the agenda formally, I trust that you've the relevant paperwork which outlines the procedure for the hearing today that we'll be following. And if obviously you've got any questions on that, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll continue. Thank you. We'll start with item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies and substitutions. Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. Just to note that there has been a change to the subcommittee membership. The Liberal Democrat group have added Councillor Gareth Wilson as a substitute member. So we have received apologies for absence today from Councillor Kane and Councillor Edwards, and we have Councillor Huffer and Councillor Wilson here today attending as their substitutes.
Thank you, Hannah. Moving on to item 2, whether anyone has any declarations of interest. No. Good. So we move on to the matter at hand, which is item 3, the application for the grant of a new premises licence under the Licence Act 2003 with the applicant Loungers UK Limited and the premises of Piccolo Lounge 11 Marketplace Ely, CB7 4NP. And now referring to the hearings procedure, I would like to start by inviting the licensing officer to do his presentation of his report. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Chairman. As you've just stated, we're here to determine an application for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of Piccolo Lounge, which, as you say, is on 11 Marketplace Ely, CB7 4NP. Obviously, everybody has had a chance to see the report papers, but because we are live streaming and there may be other people, I will go through the report word for word. So paragraph 3, background premises history. Historically, the premises has been used as a retail outlet, previously seeing both Tesco and M&Co clothing in occupancy over recent years. It isn't requiring change of use under planning rules, as the grade that it's at the moment is sufficient to do the activity that they wish to do. And just as an informative, we are aware that applications have come in for signage and also extraction equipment, etc., that are pending with our colleagues in planning. So that's the history of the property. On the 16th of October 2023, Loungers UK Limited applied for a premises licence under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003, as I say, for 11 Marketplace Ely, trading as Piccolo Lounge, and that is in the report as Appendix 1. The application was served on the responsible authorities and advertised in accordance with the regulations of the Licensing Act. The application states that the applicant intends to run the premises as a food-led cafe bar, and to support this, the applicant requested the following activities. So table 1 on page 2 of the report shows sale by retail of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 10 AM till midnight, late night refreshment indoors from 11 PM to midnight, midnight, Monday to Sunday, and the opening hours of the property being from 8 AM to midnight, Monday to Sunday. And there was also provision for remaining open for the sale of alcohol and provision of late night refreshment from the normal terminal hour on New Year's Eve through to the normal commencement time on New Year's Day. That is something that, again, by way of an informative for members, that a large proportion of our licensed establishments do have that as a New Year's Eve celebrationary period request on their license. The plans of the premises can be found at Appendix 2, and that details the licensable activity area that the applicant wishes to license, as well as the sort of rough internal layout of the property. The applicant offered steps that they're willing to take to promote the license and objectives, and they can be found at Appendix 3 to the report. Now, with premises license applications, they're all subject to a 28-day consultation period. And during that consultation period, the licensing authority received 2 representations from responsible authorities, namely Cambridgeshire Constabulary and the Environmental Health Domestic section that deals with nuisance. And the full details of those objections can be found at Appendix 4. A total of 3 valid representations were received from other persons permitted by the Licensing Act 2003 to submit representations, and all 3 representations raised concerns regarding increased noise and associated crime and disorder from the premises should the application be permitted. And the full details of the objections can be found in Appendix 5. 2 of those individuals are here today to provide any information members may request of them. On the 14th of November 2023, the applicant and the police reached an agreement regarding their concerns. The applicant agreed to amend their operating schedule to include a list of additional conditions to be added to the licence should members determine to grant their application. And due to this, the police have indicated that they are satisfied that their concerns have been met and they will not be in attendance at this hearing. And these agreed conditions can be found at Appendix 6. Now, paragraph 3.9 states that no other agreement was reached between the applicant and those submitting objections at the time of writing the report, and that's true. But in the period between writing the report and publishing it and today's committee, the applicant has actually agreed conditions with the environmental health officer who submitted their representation, and I provided a document. Actually says Piccolo Lounge, Ely, operating schedule, hearing 15th of December, as opposed to the 13th of December, obviously, which it is today. Not a problem, but I just wanted to highlight that point. And that document sets out the conditions that were in the original application, i.e. they were part of the original operating schedule. It sets out the conditions agreed with the police and conditions that have been subsequently agreed with the environmental health officer. So at this point in time, as I say, we have 3 outstanding representations from members of the public, but both of the responsible authorities who did submit objections initially have now agreed to, so carefully word this, they haven't agreed to withdraw their representation. They still have to keep their representation active, but they have agreed that all of their issues have been resolved and they're offering no further objection. And as I say, should members agree to those conditions being placed on any license, they would be happy with that. So conclusions, members are obliged to determine this application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, the prevention of public nuisance, public safety, and the protection of children from harm. In making their decision, members are obliged to have regard to the statutory guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act and the Council's own statement of licensing policy. Should members depart from either, they must specify their reasons for doing so. You must take into account the information contained within the report and the evidence submitted, both written If agreed between all parties present at the hearing, anything which is provided in writing on the day of the hearing. And obviously anything which is orally provided to you during the hearing. Now, the rules are that those who have made representations can amplify those representations. They are not permitted to bring in additional information that wasn't in their original representation. Paragraph 4.2 sets out the relevant statutory guidance consideration sections 2, 8, 9, 10 and 16, and they're found in Appendix 7 to report. Paragraph 4.3 sets out the local policy considerations, and they are found in Appendix 8 to the report. In paragraph 4.4, members can determine the premises licence application as follows. They can grant the application subject to the conditions that are consistent with the operating schedule accompanying the application, modified to such extent as members considered appropriate for the promotion of the licence objectives, and any mandatory conditions that must be included by law on the licence. You can exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licence activities to which the application relates, refuse to specify the person on the licence as a DPS, or reject the application entirely. Members are asked to note they may not modify or impose new conditions or reject whole or part of the application merely because they consider it desirable to do so. It must be appropriate to do so in order to promote the licence objectives, and any such step must relate to the actual representations made. Conditions attached must be focused on matters which are within the control of the applicant, i.e. the premises and its vicinity. And as I just pointed out, Regulation 19A requires authorities to disregard any information given by a party or person that's not relevant to the application or their representation, and more importantly, is not relevant to the licence and objectives. So, for instance, certain aspects regarding planning or parking and things like that are not relevant to the licence objectives, and legal officer will obviously inform members of that. In determining the premises licence application, members must provide the reasons for their decisions and consider their responsibilities under the Human Rights Act 1998 when balancing the rights of the applicant and the rights on those who may be affected by the decision. Any decision must be appropriate and proportionate to the objective being pursued, and in particular must take into consideration the Article 6 right to a fair hearing, Article 8 respect to private and family life, and Article 1 which is peaceful enjoyment of possessions, which can include the possession of a licence, and Article 14, the right to freedom from discrimination. Just to conclude, financial implications of this: the cost of convening a statutory subcommittee is determined and covered by the fees that are paid by applicants. Should there be a decision to refuse a whole or part of the application or modify the conditions, the applicant will have a right of appeal to the magistrates within 21 days of being given the notice of a decision. And any party who's made relevant representation can also have a right to an appeal should they not be happy with a decision that is made. That, Chairman, is the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Okay. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions of our licensing officer, senior licensing officer, before we proceed?
Not for me.
No? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Again, referring to the procedure, moving on to section 9A, in which we ask the applicant or their representative to present their case to us. So, and what I would also ask is, for the minutes, if you could make sure that we have a record of your name and any relevant title. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me? I may be a little bit croaky as it was our firm's Christmas party last night, but I appear to have just about crawled out of bed and got here this morning. So please bear with me. My name's Robert Botkai. I'm the solicitor representing loungers today. With me, I've got Stuart Hakewell Watson, who is the operations chef for loungers for this region. He covers nine restaurants in the area. But I'll address you. I won't take up too much of your time. A little bit of an introduction to loungers. I hope you've seen the brochure that has been circulated. I know that Stuart's been very helpful and circulated it to anybody who made representation. So Loungers has in excess of 200 lounge diners around the country. They tend not to be known as a brand because they go with a local name for each of the venues, and that name for some reason must always have an O at the end of it. So this one is going to be Piccolo Lounge. We've been trying to find out the reason that the naming committee will have sat. We think it may be small city, but not quite sure about that. But it's going to be known as, provided you grant the license, Piccolo Lounge. My own local lounge is called Casio Lounge in Watford. So they all end in an O, and they all have a local connection. So they've got over 200 lounge diners. They also have 36 cozy clubs, which are more of a late night venue or a drinking. The emphasis is more on alcohol and the later evenings. But a lounge is very much a family diner, and the emphasis is more on brunch, lunch, afternoon, and the trade tends to tail off in the evening. I tend to give my own experience of going to Casio Lounge at 8 o'clock in the evening in Watford. It's on the high street, so it's, you know, close to the Weatherspoons and O'Neill's and on the drinking circuit, if you like. And we got there at 8 o'clock in the evening. It was quite relatively busy. By 9:45, we were almost the only people in the Casio Lounge. So the business really tailed off. So it's very much daytime, early evening, family atmosphere with a really good range of vegetarian, gluten-free food as well. It's all freshly cooked on the premises. So it's an informal cafe bar. The hours that we seek are 10 a.m. to midnight. Those are umbrella hours. So it doesn't mean that we will operate those hours every day of the week. And in fact, most of the lounge premises, and we expect this one, more likely to be 11 o'clock, possibly midnight on a Friday and Saturday. But we would ask for that flexibility of the midnight terminal hour. But we quite understand when these blue notices go up and fairly limited information that we can supply on the blue notice, that local residents may have concerns that this is going to be a drinking venue. Everybody's going to be tipping out of the venue at midnight. And that's simply not the case. That's not how a lounge operates. So it's very much more the daytime. And I think the residents will find that we won't be trading all of those hours all of the time. If we are open to midnight, it would be more likely to be the Friday or Saturday. We have engaged with the officers, and I'm grateful for the time that they put into this application. So Stuart's been most helpful. I've had a meeting with Claire, with your local police licensing officer, Claire Metcalf, and we agreed the conditions which you have in your papers. And then over the last few days, I've been in discussion on email with the environmental health officer. And again, you've got the conditions set out. So you should have the single document where all of the conditions are clearly set out, albeit with the wrong date on the hearing, for which I can only blame too many mince pies. The only, if it were not for now the resident representations, it wouldn't necessarily have been required to have a hearing. I know you do. I think Stuart's preference is it still comes to committee even where conditions are agreed. But the resident concerns set out in the papers are a concern about antisocial behaviour late at night in the square and on the side road next to the venue. And I hope that the description that you've got of how we will operate has given some reassurance that we won't be contributing to any late night antisocial behaviour. The concern about food smells, that's part of the planning application. We have to have the right kitchen extraction apparatus, so that doesn't form part of today's hearing. The same with parking. Many of our venues don't have specific parking, particularly where we're on the high street or in a market square. So people are more likely to be walking to us, parking elsewhere. one of the residents, I'm sorry, I don't know who, but is suggesting a terminal hour of 10 o'clock. We wouldn't be able to operate with a terminal hour of 10 o'clock at a lounge. It may be that on some evenings it does stop. We do stop serving at 10 o'clock, but that needs to be at our discretion. We retain the application as submitted in terms of hours. And then a concern that people leaving are likely to be inebriated. And that's not, again, our experience. So you will have other venues within the city centre that offer far more alcohol in terms of range and at a much cheaper price, dare I say, than we will be offering. We are seated. There may be a small area around the serving counter, but the way it works is that you're taken to your table, you're shown your table. You then order from your table, usually by way of an app. It's a very good app. So the food and any drink is brought to your table. There is no standing, there's no standing vertical drink, if you like, in this establishment. So we don't generally experience people getting intoxicated in our venues. There are much cheaper drinking establishments where they're more likely to be attracted. We're very excited to come to the city, and we hope that we welcome to the city. I think it will be a really good addition. We've independently both been in the square, sitting in the square from 9 o'clock this morning, without knowing that we were both there. And we believe that the Piccolo Lounge will really enhance the square, and we look forward to actually providing service to the residents when we are open. So we're very happy to answer any questions that you may have. That's really the application. I've got hard copies of the brochure if you would find those useful, but I know that they have been circulated. Sorry, I should have said there'll be limited seating outside. It's really important now, certainly since the pandemic. People like the opportunity to be able to sit outside. I think it'd be four tables, three
Max,
tables,
maybe
yeah, three tables with 4 chairs per table. So that's part of the application as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And as you say, I'll invite representatives of the panel and others to see if they have any questions that you can answer. So, Councillor Halfer.
Thank you for your introduction. I see at the back of the premises is an area mothball. Is that something that you will be paying rent for? Is it something that you can envisage that you would expand into in the fullness of time?
We don't believe so. Mothball means that we won't be using that area. So as far as we know, there are no plans to go into that area. And if we did, we would have to come back with a full application, and that would be reconsidered in its entirety. But I think it's unlikely.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, as a new person on this committee and quite recent, I didn't get a copy of your brochure, so I'd be quite interested to.
One just there.
We've got some copies.
No, some here. Some here.
Oh. Is that the same one?
Yes, same one. Yes. It's okay. It's right. We found one.
Is there anything else?
Any
What sort of percentage is your food to your alcohol drinking?
Roughly 70-30 food to wet.
Right, so that you're mainly an eating place rather than a drinking place.
Right, yeah.
Yep, no further questions from you, Gareth. Thank you.
Chairman, just a sort of point of clarification, really. You mentioned, Robert, that there are plans to have seating outside. And I note on the plans that you submitted that you have put the licensed activity area to 1.5 metres beyond the front facade of the property. I understand that to be the public highway as opposed to your property. So are you and your client intending to apply for a pavement licence for that activity?
Yes, we would do. Yeah.
That was going to be my question.
Sorry, Chair.
No, not at all. Great minds think alike, they say. Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson.
In the papers, it says that there is single glazing to the front of the place. Are you intending to make it double glazing, and how much noise are you expecting to emanate from the place?
So where have you seen in the papers about single glazing? You're ahead of me, Councillor Wilson.
Currently, it is single glazing there. I know I have visited the premises in the last few days, and it's just interested to understand. I think if I can put the question for you, is there a plan to upgrade it to double glazing?
No idea.
Yeah,
We don't, sorry, we don't have an answer to that. I don't know. It's only is it the frontage that you're referring to?
I think so, yes. There's a shop window.
Yeah, I don't know what strength the glass will be. I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
Can I follow up with a supplementary? Is it the music that you'll be playing is what background music? You're not having live entertainers and that sort of thing.
No live entertainment. It's background music only. Yeah.
Thank you. Perhaps we might invite, if you've got any questions. If not, feel free to ask them if you do, but if you don't, then we would move on next for you to be able to present your case, for want of a better expression. So do you have any questions, or would you rather move straight into presenting your position?
Can I just ask, you've asked for the licence to go up till midnight, obviously from 8 AM till midnight. Most of the time Ely's really quiet. Apart from New Year's Eve, why would you require it to go till midnight?
Okay, thank you. So we've applied for a licence for the sale of alcohol from 10 o'clock in the morning till midnight. We have put the opening hours of 8 o'clock to allow us to serve breakfast. It's not a licensable activity as such. It's really for information rather than part of the application. The midnight is, as I explained, it's an umbrella terminal hour. So we don't expect, and most of our venues would not be selling alcohol to midnight 7 days a week. We would expect here probably to be 11 PM most days, but possibly midnight on a Friday and Saturday. And some reassurance on New Year's Eve. There's, again, it's in there. There's very few of the lounges that do actually open late at New Year's Eve, but we're just allowing that as an option should locally there be a desire to do so. But most of the lounges don't open late on New Year's Eve.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to you being able to present any statement or case that you wish to make at this point. Any questions?
No, I think it's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then if you could just reset your microphone. Okay, as I don't know whether you're both intending to make statements, but either way, quite happy that if you are, then both of you. You will be allowed, I believe it's 10 minutes. But I'm sure that 10 minutes each would be sufficient. But what I would ask is if you could just, for the record, let us know who you are and if you're representing anybody other than your good selves. Thank you. Are you looking to make any statements or do any presentation of your case?
I'm not used to this. What I was going to say was that you've got what I wanted to say to you in that piece of paper I gave you. And that's basically what I want you to know.
No, that's fine. No, we have, and we can take into account everything that's been submitted in writing. And I presume you are Mr. Robert Proctor Starling. Is that correct? Excellent. Thank you very much. Does the same go for yourself? Sorry,
Hello, yes.
Lorraine Hodgkinson?
Yes, and I'm here representing myself, my husband and my son.
Fine, okay. Would you like to make any statement or a presentation or anything?
Only the fact that obviously we are concerned because although you say that the occupancy will be a certain amount and drinking will be a certain amount, you won't know until the actual premises is open. So our concern is living on Braes Lane, that it will travel and it will cause a nuisance to for us as residents. That's really, and I think we've said everything else we wanted to say in our statement also. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. And I certainly understand the matters that you've raised in your objections. And I have spoken, or certainly the senior license officer, I've spoken at length with environmental health. Obviously just establishing the enforcement powers that they have should matters become a nuisance. That's obviously where they have the ability to become involved. But as you quite rightly say, the nuisance has got to happen first before they're able to step in, because obviously if people follow the licensing conditions, the aim is that they should protect both the applicant and the local community as well. Anyway.
Can I just say that we are not objecting to Piccolo Lounge per se. We welcome obviously more things in Ely, and it's just the lateness of the hour every single day. That is one of our main concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's appreciated. What I will do now is I'll move on and invite the applicant if they want to provide any closing statement at this time.
Thank you. And the concerns are fully understood, and we've heard similar concerns before. And what I would hopefully will be able to speak outside of the hearing and provide a contact number for Mrs. Hodgkinson, so that as and when we're open, that there can be communication between residents and the venue and an area manager. So very happy to give my details too. And I hope it's some reassurance as well that the way that the Licensing Act works is that it's generally quite a permissive piece of legislation, but what I would describe as a sting in the tail, and that is the license review. So if we don't operate in the way that we say we're going to do, it's not just the officers that have got the power to do something about it, but there is also a power for residents to apply for a review of the license. And at that point, they'll be able to say, well, look, we've been disturbed. We heard from Mr. Bokai, he said all these things at a hearing, and then you've behaved in a different way and we're being disturbed. And then it would be able to come back to you, at which point there would be evidence that would maybe justify reducing the hours or changing the conditions in some way, or suspending the license, or even revoking the license. And I can confirm that in the time that I've acted for lounges, none of their licenses have been reviewed. I have attended a number of these hearings where similar concerns have been raised by residents. We've always had a good conversation, and that there have been no issues certainly that hit my desk in that time. And I would certainly have been told if there were any indications of a license review. So I completely understand when you see a license application and there's alcohol and it says midnight. But I think the residents will find we're not going to be selling alcohol there every night until midnight. Our customers don't all tip out at 11:30 or midnight. It's simply not the way that we operate. And I very much hope that actually we will be seen as a benefit to the local community and to the life in the square. Very happy to answer any further questions. If you're minded to change any of the conditions that have been agreed with your officers, and I'd be grateful for the opportunity to readdress you. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And I'm certainly, as I'm sure my fellow panel members are, encouraged to hear that you will make available contact details, including your own. And I'm sure our Senior Licensing Officer and Environmental Health Officer will be happy to avail themselves of your contact and other contact details In the unlikely event, hopefully, that any further conversations as to noise or nuisance may ensue. Fine, okay. I think hopefully as everyone's had an opportunity to make statements, present their case, ask questions, it just rests with me before we close this meeting to close this hearing to ask the represented parties here if they feel that they've had a fair and equitable opportunity to present their case. Is everybody happy they've had that opportunity?
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. It's my duty to let you know that once the hearing is closed, obviously the panel will adjourn and in your absence reach its decision. That decision will be notified to parties within 5 working days.
We're very happy to wait if the decision could be given to us today rather.
You are at liberty to wait. I can't promise how long we will take.
Okay, thank you. We'll wait.
Okay, but obviously you won't be waiting in this room.
No, we'll
That's fine.
We'll move.
Yes. Okay, it now falls on me to pronounce this. Oh, sorry, there was another
Can I
matter.
just ask that question? When is, if you get the licensing, when are you proposing to open?
7th of March.
Thank you.
So not this New Year's Eve. Fine, okay. So it sounds like there will be an opportunity for a trial period, shall we say, before we reach the new year in
I think
2024.
New Year is unlikely.
Yeah. I think in the 9 sites that I run, there's only 2 that are operating on New Year. All the rest of them are closing at 11 o'clock.
Okay, without further ado, if everybody's happy, I will close this hearing and thank you, everybody. And may I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year at this opportunity. Thank you very much.